Anybody that is familiar with being in the U.S. knows that you don't let your children go outside to play. Not by themselves, not without supervision. But here I can open the door and they go outside and I have no worries. I know that they're safe and they're having fun.
Hello everybody, this is Dr. Sanusi, and today we have a special guest. We have Sheyunda Butler, Mrs., who is our practice manager at Pediatric Partners, and it's a very nice thing that she's on the show. Today she's going to be talking about growing up, bringing up children here in Nigeria versus in the US. Sheyunda is an American citizen who has lived in Nigeria from when she was a baby. She lived in Ibadan and schooled in Ibadan, and she moved back to the US, and she chose to come back to live here in Nigeria. So she's a family friend, but she's almost like my first cousin, my baby cousin, and it's just wonderful that she's agreed to join us on the show today. So Sheyunda, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Today she's going to be talking about parenting here in Nigeria and the reason why she loves Nigeria so much. This is all part of our wellness series from Pediatric Partners Hospital. Thank you for joining us, and please listen in. So Sheyunda, welcome, and hey, take it away. Why do you choose to live here in Nigeria and bring up your children here versus the United States?
Of all places, right?
Right.
I grew up here, as you said, as you mentioned. I did go to high school here. I graduated from high school here. And one of the biggest things that I remember about that journey was how focused the schooling was on me, who I am, who I was, and my potential. And fast forward, a couple of decades, and I have my own little ones. And it was very important to me to send them to school somewhere that nurtured them as individuals, that nurtured their minds and their brains, and wanted to see them grow up and do well. American schools that I've learned over the years that American schools are aimed at preparing a child for the workforce, in the sense that they prepare them to work for someone's corporation, to further somebody else. But American schools do not nurture the individual to excel on their own. It doesn't foster entrepreneurship. It doesn't push entrepreneurship. It doesn't push individuality. And that was something I definitely wanted for my children. I want them to be individuals, and I want them to to learn and to expand their mind and their capabilities as far as possible.
Okay, so that's very interesting, because when you speak to some people, they feel that the school system in Nigeria isn't working, and that's why you see a lot of people trying to get their children in colleges and secondary schools abroad. So now you're saying the opposite, and we've both lived in America, we've both lived in Nigeria, and generally the feel is people love Nigeria, and at the end of the day, they enjoy saying, I'm Nigerian from Nigeria. And a lot of people now are learning about our culture, they're learning about our languages, our food. Jollof rice is a big thing now.
Yes.
And my children also grew up, they went to high school here, and because of the training they got here, they were able to get into Ivy League from schools here.
Exactly.
And when we moved back to America, just briefly over the last few years, the difference was clear with the school system.
It is.
So, like you said, in Nigeria, it's individualistic. But I think the other thing about Nigeria that people don't realize, it gives you that sense of confidence. You're not in a society trying to prove yourself.
Yes.
And trying to explain the reason why you're smart or brilliant.
Yes.
You're in a society that nurtures you for who you are.
Exactly.
And this racism thing is not a major factor here in Nigeria either.
It's not.
Your boys are enjoying Nigeria.
Oh, my boys love Nigeria.
Tell us about that.
When my
and
boys,
your daughter. So you have 4 children.
I do.
3 boys and a girl.
girl.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
So I have a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old. My youngest boys, my 7-year-old and my 4-year-old, they're the ones that are here full-time in school, full-time. One is in grade 3, one is in preschool 2. And when we were in the U.S., throughout the summer, they kept asking, when were we coming back? Mommy, when are we going back? When are we going back to Nigeria? And I said, we're going back as soon as school starts. As soon as school is ready, you're going back. So they were eager and excited to come back. And it's because they know when they're in school, they are important, and they love to learn. And when they're in school, they are not given busy work. They're not told to go sit down so a teacher can teach other students. They are always given the attention that they need to learn, to continue their joy of learning. Because both of them, they are very, very smart, and they absolutely love learning. And, you know, I've had opposite experiences with my 15-year-old son in the U.S. and here. He was in a school, he's also very brilliant, and he was in a school in the U.S., and they would tell him, okay, go sit down in the back of the classroom so we can teach the other kids, because he already knew the material. So instead of fostering his love for learning, they created a situation where he no longer wants to be in school because he's getting pushed to the back of the classroom. And, you know, that's something I did not want for my younger ones, and that was one of the biggest motivating factors for my move back to Nigeria.
Thank you, Sheyunda. The other thing about Nigeria, I'm sure, is the social life. How has your family managed that? And tell me about what exactly it is that the children do for a social life here. And you and your husband. Your husband is African American too.
Yes.
So
My
what do
husband
you
is
and your
American.
husband, and what do the children, what do you guys do for leisure?
So my husband and I, we've actually explored a lot of Lagos and a lot of Lagos Island. We've been to a few movie premieres, which was really fun. I can honestly say I've never done those in the U.S., so that was fun and different to do here.
Yeah.
My boys, they come home from school.
Sorry, talking about being in Nigeria, I mean, you can be sitting next to the president of the country, and it's like, oh, hello,
Hi.
and you're meeting. Or you can be friends with the governor or the first lady of different states. You know,
Yes.
some of the first ladies, we grew up in Ibadan together.
Yes.
You know, and you have friends everywhere, because
do.
that is just that is what happens in Nigeria.
Right.
You know, and it's
does.
wonderful. Yeah.
My husband is friends with a few princesses.
There you
I'm
go.
not sure of their dominion, so I don't want to say it and
Right.
offend somebody.
Right.
He's acquaintances with a king, and this is just within the last 2 years. This project for us started 2 years ago, and it started January of 2021, and well, almost 3 years. So this project of us moving back here, it just started, and in that short time, we've had a bustling social life. And my children come home from school and run outside to play.
And they're not
Anybody that is
scared.
familiar, anybody that is familiar with being in the U.S. knows that you don't let your children go outside to play, not by themselves, not without supervision. But here, I can open the door and they go outside, and I have no worries. I know that they're safe and they're having fun, and it's a very comforting thing for a parent to be able to do that.
And then also, I think it helps when you have teenage children in Nigeria, because boys can go out and you're not scared that, oh, they're going to be profiled racially, or there's going to be, I mean, like in Nigeria, there are issues with security, but depending on where you are, and you just learn to manage it, especially when you're out a certain time of the night,
Yeah.
you have to know your, how do you say it?
You know your surroundings.
Know your surroundings, yes, and just be aware and be alert of where you are and people around you.
Yes.
And you live in an estate, so that's also a higher level of security
Yes.
than most. And generally, you know, I think you are enjoying Nigeria.
I
Correct
absolutely
me.
am, absolutely. My 15-year-old son, as you mentioned, is, you know, he's a big boy. He's, you know, 6 feet. I'm not sure what that is in meters, but he's 6 feet, and he's a big child. And one of the things that I was expressly happy about, especially being here, is I was able to point out bank managers. I was able to point out presidents. I was able to point out governors, high military personnel, and they all looked like him. And that's a very, very big deal for, a young African or African American boy to see representation in these positions of power, people that look like him. So it lets him know that these things are attainable, because in the U.S. that representation and that imagery is definitely not there.
And when the Obamas did it, it was like history. Oh, wow,
Yes.
the Obamas. I remember when I first came to the U.S., I used to wonder why it was always a celebration when an African American had a certain position. I'm like, but that's how it is in Nigeria. Everybody
is
looks
the
like
same.
us, and
Yes.
everybody, and racism is something that if you didn't grow up with it, it's kind of like, huh?
You don't understand
What?
it.
You wouldn't understand it. And
Yeah.
when people were being racist to me, I'm like, oh, they're just having a bad day. And my African American friends would be like, oh no.
No,
They are not having it. This is what it is.
Yes.
So, over time you learn that, okay, that's what it is, but that's not our problem. We don't make it our problem. Racism is other people's problem, but it's not ours. And
Yes.
I'm just excited that you chose to come home. And thank you for being with us in Pediatric Partners Hospital. We are excited to have you, and her children are just the most adorable children in the whole wide world.
I started to bring Kai, but I thought about the setting,
Right.
and he's a child in every sense of the word. He is free, he is unencumbered, he
Uninhibited.
is happy, uninhibited,
Yeah.
and he's a happy child, so he would have been everywhere.
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 Right. Maybe we'll have him on the show next time.
Next time.
All right. So thank you so much, Sheyunda, for being part of our show.
Thank you for having me.
For giving us your own perspective on being in Nigeria. And we look forward to doing more shows with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.